A quick thank you to all of my patrons, and a special shout out to Lemu and Firebringer Axel for donating $5 a month. Your support is heavily appreciated. The Nasuverse. A wide universe of beings of many kinds, from mystical creatures to normal people with supernatural abilities. There are so many different kinds of characters with powers of different origin within this universe, so it's really just too big to comprehend it at all times. Now, when you think about powerful characters in the Nasuverse, I've noticed a trend for certain things that pop into mind. Either servants like Gilgamesh and Artoria, or beings like Arcuade and of course, Shiki Void. Yeah, characters like those can absolutely be seen as paragons of powerful beings in the Nasuverse. However, what a lot of people fail to notice is that raw power or potential itself never dictates a fight in it. Sure, Nasu may say a character like CL isn't as powerful as a servant, but most of the time, fights in the Nasuverse are judged on various aspects other than power, like tactics, counters, and matchups. Examples like Rin catching Caster off guard using physical magecraft, or Kiritsugu's origin bullets countering any magus regardless of power the mage may have, are popular examples. A huge majority of fights in the Nasuverse are judged by random X factors just like this. There are countless examples of characters that exhibit massive advantages and strengths over enemies in certain situations, or heck, are just powerful by default yet seem to fly completely under the radar by the masses. And so, for the sake of those characters, this video was made to shine a little spotlight on some of the cool boys and girls that deserve a bit more attention than you might think when you do your power debates on every orifice on the internet. This is 10 arbitrary underrated powerhouses of the Nasuverse. These entries are in no particular order, nor are they even ranked from least powerful to most or anything. Cause, as I already implied, that's kind of irrelevant considering the way Nasu writes his fights to begin with. With that being said, let's start the list with... Number 1. Kaneth L. Malloy Archibald. Starting off the list with a character I'm sure most people would know but will probably overlook, you'd be surprised how strong Kaneth actually is for a magus. In Fate Zero, most people only recognize him for being that dude that got fucked over by Kiritsugu's origin bullets before being made a complete mockery of by literally everything else in the story, but well, that was all again because of his matchup. As I said before, Kiritsugu's power is literally geared to countering any form of magecraft, so basically any magus will lose against him at his full potential. So, how does Kaneth rank as a magus proper? Well, to be frank, Kaneth is a prodigy with innate talent and has learned to become adept in many forms of magecraft to boot. He doesn't just specialize in one, but can do virtually anything basic from healing, alchemy, illusions, and even necromancy. He has insane variety in his skill set. And finally, of course, his famous Volumen Hydrogyrum Mystic Code is actually obscenely strong. Able to attack and defend at a split moment's notice, its offensive capabilities are stated to not only be able to cut through literally anything that isn't supernatural, but it's also able to defend them from not only just conventional weaponry, but even other forms of magecraft. You need something like an anti-tank shell in order to best it, and for a Magus Mystic Code, that's kinda insane. This is basically a normal man with talent, with a weapon that acts as perfect defense and offense. A lot of people just don't realize it, but Kaneth is actually kind of a beast. Number 2. Cornelius Alba. Following a powerful character that got really unlucky and destroyed by another bloke, here we have one that's pretty much the same story, but they actually put up a decent fight at first. I don't know many people that are huge fans of Alba because, let's be real, he's kind of a shitty person, but according to the writing, he's one of the strongest Magi we've seen. Absolute first rate in the association. So strong that you might have to compare him to the absolute tops like fucking Bartholomew Lorelei. He's less of a prodigy than Kaneth, but he has a very good lineage and is said to have a lot of skills under his belt too. Think about it. The huge reason he's obsessed with Toko is because Toko surpassed him in puppeteering specifically. If that's enough to make him obsessed with Toko and nobody else so far, wouldn't that mean he's never met anyone on his level that's been able to surpass his other forms of magecraft? Just a bit of food for thought. He's able to use high-speed incantations to create his Sea of Flames magecraft in a mere instant, and Toko states that if he improved his craft just a bit, he could melt almost any matter into nothingness. What? Nasu has stated that Alba is one of the most strongest Magi he's written, comparing him to a unit in a fighting game that's able to spam super moves. Please note, Toko hates this guy, but even she acknowledges his strength. Let that sink in. Toko acknowledges his strength. I think that says enough. Number 3. Lucius Tiberius. Okay, let's move away from the Mei guy for a bit. Lucius Tiberius, specifically the one in Fate prototype Fragments, is an extremely minor character, but boy has he shown potential. Lucius in Fragments was the Emperor of Rome during Arthur's reign, and is considered to be the strongest of his continent and named the Sword Emperor. Assumingly because Mordred gave it to him, he wields Florent, a demonic sword that's the older brother to Clarent, and his physical abilities is said to rival magical beasts. We only see him once in a flashback to Fragments. However, in that flashback, Lucius is seen not breaking a sweat when fighting Gawain in the sunlight and Bedivere at once. When Arthur came in, they fought to a complete standstill, meaning he was able to rival Arthur himself in swordsmanship, and come to a tie. He is that strong. I am not sure if he can beat Arthur if he uses Excalibur's absolute full potential, but the fact that he can fight 2 members of the Knights of the Round with no sweat says a lot. If it requires Arthur to fight this man to a standstill, you know he's a ridiculously good swordsman. So I just gotta ask, how the hell has this man not made an appearance as a Saber-class servant yet? Come on, Tymoon, you literally have a prime candidate! Number 4. Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Okay, so from a potential saber to an actual saber, a lot of people tend to forget about Monkey. Hideyoshi is a saber-class servant, known for being the retainer of Oda Nobunaga, who eventually surpassed them and united Japan. So how does he translate as a saber? The thing is, Hideyoshi as a servant is entirely based on his noble phantasm, Child of the Sun, which embodies how Hideyoshi grew from a simple no-name farmer into Japan's most important icon. In a Grail War, Hideyoshi is initially summoned in his child state that we see from Fate Koha Ace, and he is extremely weak. However, over the course of 7 days, he will become older and his power will increase, and by the 7th day, Hideyoshi goes into a state where he will have stats that rival the strongest of all servants, and obscenely high authority to boot. However, after that 7th day, his abilities will deteriorate, so masters must take advantage of him on that 7th day. Hideyoshi also has another noble phantasm called Sword Hunt, which allows him to render another weapon-type noble phantasm useless for a short amount of time, as well as copy that noble phantasm, although he won't be able to use their true name. However, like Child of the Sun, it powers up over time, and on the 7th day, he can straight up recreate other enemy NPs, meaning he can literally just steal others' NPs and use them for himself. These are just 2 of the 3 known noble phantasms that he has, and we've yet to know the proper details of his castle. But going off Child of the Sun and Sword Hunt, it's probably something ridiculous when it's the 7th day. There is a reason Hideyoshi is one of the most desired servants I want in Fate Grand Order, and part of it is because I want people to realize his insane potential power. Number 5. Satsuki Yumizuka. Sachin. Not only did your route get cancelled, but we never even saw your abilities done proper justice before you were defeated. So sad, so sad. I've previously made a video on Satsuki Yumizuka, and in that video I've mentioned why Satsuki, despite seeming like a novice vampire at first, is actually way more powerful than it seems. And while the video itself is a bit dated, the points in it still hold up well. The thing about Satsuki is that despite being turned into a vampire during the events of Tsukihime, she skipped the typical ghoul phase and managed to become a dead apostle immediately. The truth is that Satsuki has insane innate compatibility and potential to be a dead apostle ancestor. It is stated that if she were to spend time honing her abilities by just a bit, she would quickly become comparable to a full-on dead apostle ancestor, one of the stronger known species in the entirety of Nasuverse. That's crazy. Not only that, but Satsuki herself has a reality marble known as Depletion Garden, which erases all forms of magical energy inside of it. So anything that uses magical energy, e.g. Magi, servants, or other certain phantasmal species like golems, they will either become useless or just die straight up inside the reality marble. This is basically an insta-win against anything that relies on magical energy. And sure, while there are characters like psychics that don't need magical energy, that's still a huge fraction of characters. And it's just, not a lot of people even know she has this. which is why she makes this list to begin with. Number 6. Maxwells Demon. So, Demon's a bit of an interesting case. He's actually extremely weak most of the time, and in your typical Grail War in the modern ages, Maxwell's Demon won't be useful very much at all. Maxwell's Demon is based on the thought experiment of the same name, and the servant is basically the embodiment of the potential that experiment had. So if summoned around or before the 1940s, when the Maxwell's Demon's thought experiment was still unsolved, the servant will not be able to be killed under normal circumstances, as humanity has yet to understand it. As a servant, Demon has nothing to his existence in terms of skills, stats, or whatnot, but he does have an EX rank noble phantasm, once again known as Maxwell's Demon, which essentially gives him an infinite amount of energy, which can be transferred to magical energy as well. It's a walking contradiction, but that's the nature of Maxwell's Demon as an idea, as the experiment has yet to be solved at this point. Demon uses this to essentially dominate the Holy Grail War in Fate Koha Ace, and it's not until Okita uses the power of all the defeated servants and the Grail to become Majin's Saber, where she is finally able to defeat Demon. We don't see much, and Koha Ace is definitely not a serious story, but it doesn't take much to see that Maxwell's Demon is a beast if summoned in the right time frame. Number 7. Shiki Tono, or Death. Being Tsukihime's protagonist, it's kind of amazing how people don't realize Shiki's actual strength. Like sure, in the story proper, he's very sickly due to the original Shiki absorbing his own energy and his mystic eyes breaking his sanity, but a lot of people don't seem to know what happens after Tsukihime. I've once again covered this in my video of him, but after Arquade's route, he regains most of his physical abilities since the original Shiki is already gone. And not only that, but he physically trains a lot more in order to protect Arquade, as Arquade being a true ancestor means that she has many enemies. Over time, Shiki becomes able to fight toe-to-toe with dead apostle ancestors, which are again, one of the most powerful species in the Nasuverse. Not only that, but he does it blinded, since over the years, his mystic eyes became so strong that his glasses can no longer retain them. So instead, he wraps sealing bandages around his head in order to stay alive. So basically after Tsukihime, Shiki becomes a beast of a warrior that relies on Nanaya training built into his body to become the perfect assassin, and is able to fight beings that normal humans should be unable to touch. That's kind of amazing. A lot of people who only consume Tsukihime and Kara no Kyokai's original story immediately assume that Ryogi is just stronger than the two Shikis, but in truth that only applies to their mystic eyes. Ryogi's eyes are undeniably stronger, but when you actually look at Tono's capabilities, you may have to debate that just a bit further. Number 8. Ort. Itsy bitsy spider went to America, and many years later proceeded to wipe out almost all the Earth's population. Hey guys, remember the types? Apparently not, because half of the people I talked to never heard of this cute thing. Ort here is a spider that's theorized to be the Aristoteles of Mercury, aka Type Mercury. Albeit it's not confirmed if he is, and he could very much still not be, but he's still strong. Orti here rests somewhere in South America where he bombed the place and turned it into his home. He made this giant pit we call the Crystal Valley where he just exists. Its very existence affects what's around it, similar to a reality marble. This is because Ort is from Mercury, where the rules of the planet differ fundamentally to ours. Similarly to the types, it can't die. Cause apparently death is an Earth thing, so yeah, it just doesn't die. You need to annihilate its complete physical existence 100% in order to beat it. When it landed, it killed the 5th Dead Apostle Ancestor in 6 seconds. Yeah. Don't fuck with types, they will destroy everything. They're sort of the strongest entities in the Nasuverse, so I just don't know why people forget Ort. Number 9. Mysterious Hurin XX. Yeah, I bet most of you didn't see this coming, regardless of whether or not you're a fan of the general Nasuverse or our Grand Order only. First off, remember, XX comes from an alternate universe that, to begin with, is kinda whack. Sure, she's a space cop, but her character, like any other summer servant, is mostly played for jokes. However, what if I told you XX actually never even comes close to displaying her full power in the story of the game? The truth to XX's potential power doesn't lie in her, but rather her weapon. Similar to Lancer Artoria and what Rongo Miniad represents for the world, Double X's Rongo Miniad LR represents, well, the universe. It's described that the two ends of Rongo LR balance the universe, and swirling the weapon is able to twist that. It's described as being able to create a beam of light that destroys everything in its wake, and is a technique unused by her, probably due to the fact that it's impossible to control. Not only that, but it's implied in her profile that Double X has a power that she inherited that comes from the boundary. Now what is the boundary referring to? I assume the edge of the root. Reason being, it's described as being a power that's able to rip apart nothingness and truth. And if you remember, nothingness is essentially void. And truth, well, we'll get to that later. But it's described as a power able to drive off even beings from other universes. And it's so powerful that Double X herself doesn't quite understand it. This likely means that this is another power Double X lacks control of, which implies she could control a power that's able to cut away at truth and void, aspects that two of the most powerful characters in the Nasuverse utilize. I don't know about you, but that's kinda scary. Thankfully, her capabilities are only stated as potential, so we don't know if she can actually pull that stuff off. Unlike the final entry of the list. Number 10. Otto Adam. Oh boy, it's been a long time, but I finally get to talk about my favorite power in the Nasuverse. Otto Adam is the whole reason I made this list, because he is absolutely ridiculous, yet I see so little people talk to recognize that fact. Otto Adam is an etherliner from the dystopian world of Notes. As a character, he has no known personality, and he's only mentioned as a name in the story, nothing more. But his actions, quite literally, affected the entire world of Notes. Like other etherliners, Otto has a knight arm, which is basically a sword formed from his arm that's created from grain and bone. The difference is Otto's knight arm is kind of unique. I assume sort of a mutation from unknown origin. Otto's knight arm is called /Emperor, and when not in use, it takes the form of a seed inside of Otto's palm. When he grips it to become a weapon, it forms into a sword. /Emperor is a weapon that grows to match the size of its enemy, and against a normal A-ray, it didn't seem that impressive in a normal fight. However, once the types began invading, that's where /Emperor showed its true potential. As it's able to match the size of its enemy, against a type, /Emperor was able to grow to an immense size, literally propelling Otto above the clouds. And not only that, but it emits a strange aura that's able to change the area around it. Now, the world of Notes is destroyed, but the air around Otto's sword reverted to clean normal air of the world with blue skies and green grass. This is because that is the truth of the area around it, the origin per se, how it's originally meant to be. /Emperor has the ability to glimpse at these truths merely by existing. Most beings cannot hurt types with a few exceptions. /Emperor is one of those exceptions. Being able to glimpse at truth allows Otto to bypass different rules of nature that types have from Earth, and it becomes a weapon able to affect their very existence. Combined with its massive size, Otto Adam was literally able to cleave type Jupiter in one single slash, destroying it instantly. What the fuck? This basically means that Otto Adam is literally able to pierce any kind of armor, kill any existence, and affect everything around it purely because /Emperor has the ability to glimpse at truth, the origin of all things. I theorize that said truth is like affecting the root directly, as it's essentially reversing or modifying reality around it to how it was meant to be, which is kind of insane. Okay, so a lot of that flowery language might be headache-inducing to some, but I hope to at least put the point across. Otto Adam has a potentially enormous sword able to cut through almost anything and kill anything. It is one of the most overpowered weapons in the Nasuverse, so powerful that when used at full potential, Otto Adam has to drain energy directly from the earth itself just because the sword consumes so much energy that no human can provide it with enough. It's bloody nuts, and I don't know about you, but I think Otto can put a decent fight with the other powerhouses. I mean, he kills fucking types, you know? The most powerful general species in the entirety of the Nasuverse? Just saying. Well, with all that being said, here we are at the end of the list. Hopefully you've come to appreciate these niche, unique, or straight up obscure abilities that some of these characters have. And next time you want to do your oh so fun power discussions, maybe throw in a few candidates from this list into the mix. Either way, despite all of that, as I said, the Nasuverse is all about counters and circumstances. For the absolute crazy bullshit Otto Adam is, he's still a human in the end, and Slash Emperor definitely has its downsides, so it's not like he'll always win in a fight. So just remember, just because a character is powerful, doesn't mean they will definitely win. Anyways, that's all there is for this video, and I hope that helped shed some light on some of the more stronger characters in the Nasuverse that people don't tend to recognize. Regardless, I'll see you all in the next video. Well, I'll once again see you somewhere else on the internet. Until then, take care.